Hello! I'm back from my travels. I'm back from outer space. But I want to talk some C++. So yesterday I recorded a 15-minute ramble about this, but I want to just condense it a little here. We're talking 6-7 minutes tops, not a major video. So I'm looking at my factory create pattern. My factory create pattern is to hide, first of all, the default constructors and get things out of the way, and then any actual specific constructors are privatized. I can then either use a template that I've got or give an actual static function to the real concrete class. The reason I do this is I want to wrap the result of the constructor, the factory create, to give me a smart pointer. I don't want raw pointers ever in my C++ code. So I'll have something like a static whatever shared pointer of this class, create, and then the parameters, and then underneath I will call return make shared on that class site. There's a little tweak in there, a little hack, because you've made those constructors private. Make shared can't find them, so you have to unfortunately add a friend class to your base class to the shared counter, the ref counter. On Windows, it's _ref_counter, I think, or something like that. And in Linux, it's something else. But link below, I'll put it in a blog somewhere. Or if I haven't already, it's probably out there. So I use that pattern to give me a created solid thing. However, I've also now been looking at atomic access to shared pointers. There's actually been the addition to C++ 17, ratified into 20, of a shared pointer atomic, which wraps shared pointer and I think weak pointer references. It does this by giving you access via load, exchange, and store, some things to store in the atomic, the pointer, without changing the ref counter of the pointer is the basic premises, some things like that. There are two problems with this. The first problem I've got is that there isn't any concrete information about the concurrency technical specifications idea of how this be achieved. You want lock free, but I don't see how you get locked free out of the schema that's there, and you can't really give it a try because on Windows it's not implemented. It's just not there at the moment. Not even on Visual Studio 2019 preview is it there. So it's not even in the experimental, I don't believe. So you're really struggling to look at it on Windows, which is where I kind of want to start with things, because it's, 80+% of your target market is Windows for things. Very annoying. So you skip to Linux, and after installing GCC 5 and playing about, or I think Clang, whatever it is, the latest one, and you set your things up, it still doesn't work. And you think, well, why isn't this working? And you have to compile against all sorts of different flags to actually include reference, an exchange of 16s and all this kind of compare exchange stuff. And it's like, this needs sorting out sooner rather than later for me. It's all very well it being 2019 and saying this is slated for C++ 20, but it was actually put to the ISO in July 17. So, it's a year and a half. It's 18 months since it was put in. Now, I know C++ development and standards progression is slow. Remember, I started C++ back before, really, the first standard. So I was using, there wasn't even STL when I started using C++. And it became a bit of a shock the year, C++ 98 came out, and it was all this STL stuff easy to use, and it's like, oh, okay. And then I remember TR1 and etc., all these iterations, and the iterations are getting closer together. And it takes that hit, the C++ takes that hit that people say, oh, it takes forever things to get ratified into the language, into the standard. They discuss something for a year and then it might get in there or not. And then the three major compilers, GCC, Clang, and Visual Studio are, they are divergent in that they implement things obviously differently. But when something's going to show up, So I'm just struggling through this all at the moment. I want to sort of create future-proofed code now and not have to deal with it. But what I'm actually having to do is create fudges and leave comments to come back and review stuff. And it will all get reviewed. And vast tracks of the stuff I'm talking about will be replaced over time. But when you want to make that kind of initial impact, it's kind of tempting to go and look at what's coming out. And atomic shared pointer would be exactly the thing. And then so atomic shared pointer, so standard atomic underscore shared underscore pointer is vaunted as a potential change of the nitpicking stuff for the standard. I forget the code, but there's a callback for it. If you look up compiler compatibility and look up the shared pointer stuff for C++17, you'll see this. So standard atomic shared pointer is one thing, but then originally it was implemented as standard atomic open brace, standard shared pointer close brace or close chevron. So you're wrapping the shared pointer inside the atomic. That's kind of not been properly supported both ways either. The big problem I've got with that is when you compile to use it, it will often say that the internal part of the atomic needs to be trivially copyable. Well, obviously a standard shared pointer is not trivially copyable. You have to use move semantics and all sorts of different bits and bobs. So, you know, it's clearly not doing what the standard says it should do, and even what the compiler spec for C++17 says it should do. Even though, say, in Visual Studio, you're setting the language generation to C++17, it's quite annoying. It's one of those coming out moments for C++ that give the language a bad name, and it's just something I'm fighting with. You feel like you're fighting. Instead of code flowing, you're fighting. And I think this is where there's so much stuff coming into C++, and there's so variance between the different languages, and so much specialty needed in compiling the very simple tests for it, that it gets on your nerves. And you can tell it's difficult to pin down, because if you go to the actual official C++ website, the ISO website, there's no examples. You know you're off the beaten track the moment there isn't an example. And it actually says this page is incomplete, reason there is no example. So they know, or something, maybe a tool knows, but it leaves you in the dark. And that's something I have an issue with C++, and it leaves you in the dark. Right, I will see you all soon. There's been a whole slew of new subscription folks, so hello out there, and I do intend to come back to these pages soon. I'm perhaps going to do some game stuff, but I'm definitely going to be programming things more this month. But I need to go and walk the dogs, because we've got 1, 2, 3, and the other one's upstairs in bed. 4 to walk, and we'll see where we go from there. I may be back this afternoon. I look very red. I don't know why I look so red. Maybe because I'm cold. Bye.